Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Hey everybody, this is Devin Townsend, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather. As always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a huge privilege to have Mr. Devin Townsend, guitarist, vocalist, producer, and all-around badass guitar player, hands down. Devin has released his 18th studio album, Empath, via Devin's own record label and Inside Out Sony Music. So, we'll be talking to Devin about that. Man, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm in Saskatoon. I'm back over in Canada here for about 5 days before we head back down into the States, and about halfway through this tour, and it's been really good, man. You know, I finished Empath, and it was such a monumental effort that went into sort of making it right that when it came time to tour, I didn't have the energy to just get back on the horse in the way that I did, so I managed to sort of hitchhike along with a bunch of bands, just doing some acoustic stuff for a while, and it's been good, man. Real touring starts up again in November.
So did this album kind of take a toll on you physically, mentally, possibly?
Well, I mean, I think they all do to some extent, but that's just the nature of it. I think that any job that we do, whether or not it's art or building a structure or you know, making a porch, anything that you do, I think if you're going to do it right, it's going to take a certain amount out of you. And that's been no different with Empath. I think, however, in comparison with the other records, it maybe took a little more out of me than the other ones, but not so much that it's been detrimental, but just enough that I wanted to sort of take it easy for the first few live gigs, right?
What's impressed or excited you the most about making your 18th studio album, Empath, if anything? Is there anything that sticks out for you on this?
Prior to the record starting, I really had an objective, and that objective was just to be free to do whatever it is I wanted to do and work with whoever I wanted to work with. And if some of the music was super heavy and some of it was really sort of orchestral or whatever, I just wanted to be free to do it all in one place. And having that kind of mission statement prior to getting going on this allowed me to really put aside a lot of these kind of preconceived or premeditated parameters that I think I've had on myself for all these years. And that sort of sense of just whatever goes was different on this one, and I think it was awesome.
Any songs standing out more to you than any right now on the album? I know it changes every time you listen to it or every time you play them, but do you have any that stick out for you possibly?
I mean, I like them all on this one. Anytime I think of any of the songs, I'm like, oh, I really like that one. Oh, I really like that one. Oh, I really like that one. I mean, but Singularity, I think, will always be a pretty monumental thing in my career. Just it's really a pretty intense and long piece of work, and so just strictly from a technical standpoint, that song stands out. But I go back to Evermore a lot for some reason. I kind of like that vibe on that song.
I want to talk about Singularity just for a little bit here with you. Would you say that song is the most complicated one on the album for you? If so, what was the most difficult thing about it, possibly?
It's most complicated. I mean, certainly. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's just 23 minutes long. So there's so many different moving parts in that one that, it's certainly the most complicated. And the mix, for sure. I mean, the amount of, again, moving parts involved in that song and the amount of vibe and mood shifts that happen throughout it are so frequent that in order to mix it and not have it just sound like a mess took a lot of strategy and a lot of micromanaging of frequencies and trying to get those transitions smooth were really difficult on a mix front. by the time it was done, I think it sounds pretty seamless. Like, it can always be better, clearly, but it's not very jarring the way it moves between each piece. And to make it do that was really hard, man. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Was it hard to choose between the current set of songs on this album, Devin? Which one would be the first single, let alone a video for you guys?
No, I mean, and I'm fortunate on this round that the record label Inside Out were very willing to do with me what I wanted to do. Because a lot of times the decisions that are made as to which song is the first single and which song is the first thing that people hear has a lot more to do with what is going to be the most commercially viable or what's going to be the easiest for people to grasp onto. And that would have certainly been Spirits Will Collide. But I was very insistent on Genesis because I think it gives a better overview as to what the record entails. It's a lot of different stylistic things and a lot of color in 5 minutes. And fortunately, the label were willing to play ball with me on that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, good sir, but you produced this album, correct?
Yes, sir.
You produce a lot of your stuff. Do you like having that control of the producer role and not having to have a producer? Do you like this?
Well, it's essential on some level. However, it's a little different this time because Mike Keneally co-produced.
Okay.
So although I still was able to maintain the vision, which is essential, having somebody that is that capable and brilliant and good-hearted to act as devil's advocate was of huge significance on this. I really appreciated that.
Who did the cover art for this album for you, Devin?
The guy's name is Anthony Clarkson, and he also did Epicloud, C2, Transcendence, and Live at the Royal Albert Hall. I've been working with him for a while, but Empath was a very intense project for him, and I start the artwork typically for these records a year in advance. I don't like being stuck at the end of a mix without a suitable cover, so I get very involved with the artwork from a very early stage, and I had such specific requests for Anthony on Empath that it pushed him to a pretty far place, but he delivered, and I was very happy with it.
Yeah, I dig it, man. I like the cover art of this. It's pretty badass, actually.
I agree.
When you ended the Devin Townsend project several years ago, did Empath give you that fresh start, that fresh breath of air to create music that you're happy with more?
Yeah, and I think that Empath also cleared out the pipes and allowed me to sort of purge some things that I've been holding on to creatively. I had the idea for Empath while the DTP was still active, but it became clear to me pretty quickly that the scope of what I was trying to do with Empath was going to be problematic with the band that I had together. And it wasn't them as players, it's just parameters of what you can do with a rock band are very limited. And I wanted to have different drummers and orchestras and different singers and different players and all sorts of things that ultimately just gave me complete freedom to not be confined to one person's skill set or, what somebody likes or what somebody dislikes. It became clear really quickly as I was working through the new material that I was going to cause myself more problems by trying to fit it into a band mold than I cared to. And the writing had been on the wall for a few years for me that I needed to move on. But I think Empath not only acted as a catalyst to end it, but also when I was working on it really allowed me to spread my wings a little bit.
What do you hope everyone takes away from this album or message you hope they hear while listening to it or just any of your music in general, Devin? What do you hope they get from it, man?
Well, I want to add, I want to help. I don't want the work that I do to make people feel worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think that if there's a message on Empath, it's that life is not always beautiful. It's a lot of chaos. It's a lot of positive. It's a lot of negative. It's a lot of, it's hard to handle a lot of times. But like it says in the end of Singularity, it's through it all, we can get through it. And the fact that other people are trying helps me to try. And maybe the fact that I'm trying can also help other people to try. It's basically an anti-suicide message, I guess, on some level. But it can't, in order for it to be that way, it couldn't just be everything is great. It had to be, everything is great sometimes, but also sometimes everything is terrible, right?
Exactly. I agree 1,000%. Yeah. And the cool thing I like about your music, and I'm not just saying this because you're on here, I mean, this is the God's honest truth, is like you can pop your disc in, man, and it just takes you on a ride. You can just throw the headphones on, relax, close your eyes, and just go away for a while. I think that's essential in a lot of music. And man, that's what I like about your music a lot. Plus, your guitar playing is phenomenal. So
thanks, man. Thank you, buddy.
So,
well, I mean, ultimately, whenever I start a new record, it's really about trying to identify the vibe and then make a record that contains that vibe. So when people put it on, like you say, they're saying, okay, well, I want to feel this way right now.
Right.
I want to be this frame of mind. I want it to be dark and creepy, or I want it to be super violent, or I want it to be really loving, or I want it to be whatever it is. It's a lot of my creative process goes into trying to capture those vibes in ways that, people can kind of, like you say, escape for a while. Definitely.
I know this is a crazy question. I know you've been doing this for a very long time, but do you see yourself still musically growing, or has it just been more of a personal growth for you on the way to this Empath album?
I think it's hand in hand. I think the musical growth that I have wanted to achieve may possibly be coming next.
Oh, nice.
I don't think that a lot of what Empath is really reinventing the wheel for me as much. So I think that between those two choices that you presented there, Empath is much more about the personal growth and using the tools that I have at my disposal to illustrate that. But I have a feeling that it sort of signals the beginning of a new thing for me, and I feel there's a bunch of new stuff on the horizon that will be more in line with musical growth. Speaking
of that, though, with this new album that you're going to be working on later on down the road, is there anything that you want to incorporate that may even shock the Devin Townsend fans out there, man, that you could incorporate into it?
I don't think there's much I could do that could shock the people that like what I do. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that if people follow what I do, there's a good chance they're prepared for the unexpected, I guess. But no, man, I mean, there's lots of things that I want to do, but I never go into doing them thinking, oh, this will be weird or this will be challenging. That's never part of the process. It's just, this is what I feel like I need to do. And a lot of times just having to rationalize that to the audience is the most difficult part. It's never from the point of view of trying to be provocative, like Casualties of Cool, for example. That was kind of weird sort of outer spacey blues music. And I remember when it was released, I had to rationalize that more so than feeling like, oh, I can't wait to present this. I was more like, oh shit, now I have to explain this to people.
So when you start working and writing on a new album, do you do anything differently during the writing and recording process to help keep your mind fresh and open, to not get bored with it or not get stale? Do you do anything that helps you out possibly?
Well, every record is different, and yes, the answer is yes to all of them. Every record I've tried to put myself out of my comfort zone, apparently, in a couple of scenarios. But there's a lot of things that I surround myself with to keep myself inspired. And some examples of that are physical exercise, mental exercise, be it meditation or whatever, but also trying to, something simple. Like, I remember over the past couple of years thinking, okay, anytime my family needs me, then I'm just going to stop what I'm doing and go help them. And there's a type of discipline that comes from that, because a lot of times when you're on a creative role, you just don't want to stop. You know what I mean? You're like, someone's like, oh, you want to go play catch, or you want to go to the beach or something. And in the past, I'd be like, no way. I want to just keep working. But over the past decade or so, I've really made a conscious effort to make music not the focal point when it comes to that. And that has resulted in a lot of inspiration, just like taming a beast in a weird way.
What can fans expect at a show from you who have not got to see you live as of yet? What are they going to get when they come to see you?
Depends on the tour. I mean, right now, the shows that I'm doing are me and an acoustic guitar with some echo, and I think it's a great show. Although it is not like a typical band show, it's really a great show in my opinion. Other tours will be on this Empath run. It'll be a bunch of really super high caliber musicians doing a lot of the back catalog mixed in with a bunch of freeform, improvisation, and then I'll probably do some really heavy stuff, and I'll probably do some really orchestral stuff. It all depends, man. But I think in the same way as the writing of Empath live now, it's all kind of open, and I'm choosing to explore a bunch of things that I've always wanted to do next.
Speaking of the acoustic tour that you're doing every now and again, do you like this, though? Because that gets you more intimate with the crowd. I mean, because you've got, I guess, a closer setting with the crowd, and you're talking about it more. Do you like this versus the heavier side of a show?
When it's good, it's just as satisfying to me as a heavier show. But that requires like an audience that listens, and it has to be a good vibe. And when it doesn't work, like some of these shows where I'm playing acoustic guitar between a bunch of metal bands, not to generalize, but just, the other bands play metal. Like sometimes playing acoustic guitar between metal bands sucks. So, when it's good, it's great. And when it's bad, it sucks.
So we're living in the digital era of recording albums to get music out quicker, and now we live in the social media world to reach out to more folks. Do you like this, Devin, that we're actually in right now, or no?
It's a good question, man. Do I like it? I mean, I think that if you say that you dislike it, you're pining for something that just simply doesn't exist anymore. And I don't think that does much of a service to me, like wishing it was something other than it is. There's certain things about the modern era that I really enjoy, that I prefer to when I was growing up. And there's also things about when I was growing up that I look back on with maybe rose-colored glasses. But ultimately, man, as cheesy as a saying as it is, it is what it is, and you have to get busy dealing with it or just don't. And I do, man.
How can folks stay in touch with you, buy this new album, tour dates, things like that? How can they do that, good sir?
I'm on Twitter, Devin Townsend. I'm on Facebook, although I've never personally been on Facebook, but management runs a Facebook thing. I'm on Instagram, Devin Townsend, but I just tend to post pictures of dogs taking a crap. and I don't know where you buy it. Probably Apple. I don't know, dude. I'm not very good at selling myself.
That's okay.
I'm around, dude. I'm around.
Before I let you go, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Sure, man. What is it? Hey, everybody, this is Devin Townsend, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Please get out and check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link, YouTube link, and soon our Twitch link. And also get out and pick up Mr. Devin Townsend's Empath 18th studio album. You will not be disappointed. He's a awesome guitar player. Devin, thank you so much, man.
You're welcome, buddy. Have a great day, and thanks for the interview.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.